Most people believe motivation is the engine behind everything they do. They think if they had more motivation, they would finally start the things they keep delaying. They imagine that somewhere inside them there should be a constant source of energy pushing them forward, and when that energy isn't there, they assume something must be wrong. They say things like, "I just can't find the motivation," or "I wish I had more discipline." But often the real issue has nothing to do with motivation. It has to do with mental overload. Your mind was never designed to carry dozens of unfinished thoughts at the same time. Every day you accumulate small open loops, messages you haven't responded to, decisions you haven't made, tasks you started but didn't finish, ideas you keep thinking about but haven't acted on, plans you meant to organize but never did. Each of these things feels small on its own, but your mind doesn't treat them as separate. It holds them all at once, quietly, in the background. You might not notice it at first, but the mind keeps track of unfinished things. Every open loop requires attention, even when you are not actively thinking about it. It sits somewhere in the background of your awareness, and over time, those small, unfinished things begin to accumulate. Not in your environment, but in your mental space. Your mind begins to feel crowded. You sit down to work. But before you can begin, another thought appears. Something else you need to deal with. Something you forgot to finish. Something you should probably take care of first. Another responsibility. Another decision. Another loose end. So instead of starting the thing you intended to do, you hesitate. Not because the task itself is impossible, but because your mind already feels full. It's like trying to start a new conversation in a room where 10 other conversations are already happening. Your attention has nowhere quiet to land. This is where people often misinterpret the situation. They look at their hesitation and assume they lack motivation. They tell themselves they need more discipline, more drive, more energy. But the real problem is cognitive load. Your mind is holding too many unfinished things at once. And when the system becomes overloaded, it naturally resists adding more. This resistance is not weakness, it is protection. Your brain is trying to prevent further strain, so it pushes you toward easier activities. Scrolling, distractions, waiting for the right moment, anything that feels lighter than adding another demand to an already crowded mind. From the outside, this can look like laziness, but laziness is rarely the real cause. More often, it's mental saturation, too many things competing for the same limited space. Imagine trying to carry 10 bags in your arms. Now imagine someone asking you to carry one more. You might technically be capable of doing it, but your instinct will be to resist, not because you're incapable, but because you're already holding too much. The same principle applies to your mind. Motivation becomes difficult when your mental bandwidth is exhausted, and no amount of forcing yourself will change that. What helps instead is reducing the load. Closing small loops. Writing things down instead of trying to hold everything in your head. Finishing simple tasks you've been postponing. Making decisions you've been delaying. Clearing small pieces of mental clutter. Not all at once, but gradually. Every closed loop frees up a little space. Every finished task removes a small weight. Every decision removes a lingering question. And slowly, something begins to change. Your mind starts to feel quieter. Not because life suddenly became simple, but because fewer things are competing for attention. When that happens, starting becomes easier. Not because you suddenly became more motivated, but because the resistance fades. Action feels lighter. The mental friction decreases. You sit down to work. And the mind no longer feels crowded. There is space. And in that space, movement becomes natural. This is why people often misunderstand motivation. They treat it as the fuel that creates action. But sometimes motivation appears after the mind becomes clear, not before. When your mental environment is overloaded, everything feels heavy. When it becomes lighter, action becomes possible again. So if you ever find yourself struggling to begin something, pause before criticizing yourself. Instead of asking, "Why am I not motivated?" ask a different question. What is my mind still carrying? What decisions remain unresolved? What tasks remain unfinished? What thoughts keep reopening the same loop? Often the answer isn't that you lack motivation. It's that your mind has been trying to carry too much for too long. And the solution is not more pressure. It's less weight. Most people are not unmotivated. They are mentally overloaded. And the mind works best when it has room to think.